Redwood Meadows was a suburban development on the outskirts of a Midwestern city, boasting tree-lined streets and uniform yards that exuded a serene, orderly air. Families appreciated the consistent look of pristine lawns, trimmed hedges, and color-coordinated mailboxes. One might think Redwood Meadows was the perfect community until you discovered the Homeowners Association, HOA, which regulated almost every detail of daily life with exacting rules. Most residents complied, enjoying the neat appearance, but behind the polished facade simmered tension. The HOA's rulebook contained endless guidelines about fence heights, permissible paint palettes, and even how to store trash bins. Yet none of that prepared residents for the drama unleashed by one particular HOA committee member, Brenda Ashford, often disparagingly called Karen by neighbors. She was a stern, middle-aged woman with an unwavering gaze, a crisp bob haircut, and an unshakable conviction that she alone protected Redwood Meadows' property values. A modest, grassy lot at the neighborhood's edge served as a casual playfield. Officially, Redwood Meadows contained a single playground and a small basketball court, but kids preferred the open grass for soccer. Over time, a group of children, ranging from ages 7 to 14, began assembling there for pickup matches after school. The kids loved the spot's freedom. No formal clubs, just spontaneous fun. They pooled allowance money to buy 2 portable soccer goals, lightweight frames with nets that could be placed anywhere on the grass. Families embraced the blossoming soccer habit. It kept kids active, forging friendships across age groups. Parents found comfort in seeing them enjoy sports near home, safe for busier city parks. The only challenge was the area's shape, slightly sloping, so the kids often shifted the goals to find flatter ground or smaller spaces for 4v4 matches. This flexibility made the portable nets perfect for rotating setups. Everyone was happy, except for Karen. Karen, on her daily inspection walks, noticed the kids playing. She disliked the rowdy cheers, the occasional ball rolling near parked cars. She disliked seeing them reposition the portable nets each time. She believed it looked messy. She insisted Redwood Meadows' open lot was not zoned for chaotic sports. She dreaded that frequent soccer sessions might invite unregulated gatherings, hamper the neighborhood's tranquil vibe, or damage the grass. She voiced concerns at HOA meetings, complaining about unsightly nets left lying around. The board was neutral. No rule explicitly banned child soccer in the open lot. They figured it was a positive recreational use. Karen fumed that the board wouldn't clamp down. She believed if the kids had to move the heavy goals constantly, maybe they'd quit. But the nets were light, intentionally designed for easy rearranging. She mulled more drastic measures, convinced the endless soccer mania tarnished Redwood's pristine image. As weeks passed, the children's soccer group grew. More kids joined, sometimes with parents who brought folding chairs to watch. Balls occasionally soared over the net, but the kids quickly retrieved them, apologized if they came too close to a yard, and continued playing. Karen scowled from afar, complaining that the boisterous shouts broke the HOA's quiet enjoyment ethos. Yet nobody else minded. Many found it heartwarming seeing kids so engaged outdoors, away from screens. Karen started emailing the board with violation concerns, claiming the field was not a designated sports facility. The board politely responded that children at play didn't violate any explicit rule, as long as the space was public open land. Feeling ignored, Karen grew more resentful. She believed open land was intended for scenic strolling, not constant ball games. Her frustration simmered toward a meltdown. Karen began cornering parents, cautioning them about liability issues if a child got hurt. She spread rumors that the HOA might ban the net usage for safety. Parents, though momentarily alarmed, discovered the board had no such plan. Realizing Karen was just fear-mongering, they carried on. Some told her to leave them alone, citing the joyful community vibe soccer brought. This pushback enraged Karen, fueling her sense that no one respected her expert view of what Redwood Meadows needed. She fixated on the portability of the nets. If only they couldn't be moved so freely, maybe the kids would find them useless. She considered sabotage, anchoring them in place, forcing a suboptimal location that would hamper the kids' games. The meltdown notion took hold, particularly the idea of using cement. In her twisted logic, a heavy base might drive them to quit soccer altogether. One Saturday, the kids concluded their afternoon match and propped the portable nets off to the side, planning to play again Sunday. They didn't bother folding them away, trusting Redwood's relative safety. Karen, noticing the nets left unattended, realized this was her chance. She gleaned from a parent's casual mention that the children would be absent early next morning. That gave her a window to act. She gathered materials in secret: bags of quick-setting cement mix, a shovel, trowel, and water containers. She intended to haul the nets to the far, uneven corner of the lot, partially dig them in, and fill the bases with cement. This sabotage aimed to make them immovable, preventing the kid from adjusting for smaller or flatter matches. The meltdown's cruelty overshadowed her sense of reason. She told herself it was necessary to restore Redwood's serenity. Shortly before midnight, Karen ventured out in dark clothes, gloves on, towing a small garden cart with cement supplies. The field lay silent, the nets leaning against each other. She glanced around for watchful neighbors. None. Heart hammering, she seized the first net, dragging it across the grass. The frame squeaked faintly, but she pressed on, hauling it to the lot's far corner where the ground sloped, a place no child would want to set up a game. Sweating, she repeated the process with the second net. Then, with a trowel, she dug shallow holes around each net's base poles, mixing quick-set cement with water, slathering it around. She embedded the poles, tamping them firmly. The mixture would harden by morning. She imagined the kids discovering the nets stuck in that awkward corner, rendered useless for real matches. A smug sense of triumph flickered as she finished, her meltdown nearly complete. Bright and early Sunday, some kids arrived to continue their soccer spree. They expected the nets to remain near the center. Instead, they found the field empty. Searching around, they spotted the nets at the far corner, partially buried in hardened gray lumps. Confusion turned to alarm. The frames wouldn't budge. Pushing, pulling accomplished nothing. Parents who arrived soon realized the sabotage. The scene was surreal. The once portable nets forcibly anchored in the worst possible location. Uneven ground, smaller space, slanted slope. The meltdown was blatant vandalism, though the culprit was unknown. The children, crestfallen, scattered in frustration. One boy kicked the immovable post, tears in his eyes. Furious parents called the HOA board, demanding an immediate response. Within hours, Redwood Meadows buzzed. The meltdown was the second brazen sabotage in recent months. Some recalled earlier minor acts. Everyone suspected Karen. She'd often ranted about the nets, had a track record of hostility. But again, no direct proof existed. The meltdown overshadowed typical neighborly courtesy, replaced by anger that someone would sabotage kids' equipment. Parents posted on the neighborhood forum, condemning the sabotage, calling for the culprit to step forward. The meltdown overshadowed all other news. Some proposed filing a police report, though it was uncertain if the act was considered property damage or theft. Meanwhile, kids sulked, seeing their beloved nets ruined. Karen, reading these messages, realized how deeply the meltdown had cut. She feigned concern, claiming to be appalled at the sabotage. The HOA board held an emergency session that evening. They recognized how important soccer had become for Redwood's families. President Marcia Keller read out the flurry of complaints. Though no cameras covered the open lot, the prime suspect was Karen. The meltdown had her hallmark, an extreme measure to enforce order. Yet the board lacked direct evidence, publicly accusing her risked legal friction. Nevertheless, the board condemned the meltdown as malicious. They vowed to find ways to restore the nets or procure new ones if necessary. A board member, Daniel, suggested a communal fundraiser to fix the poles or buy better gear. Another proposed that Redwood officially designate the lot for youth soccer, preventing future sabotage by clarifying it was an approved recreational activity. The meltdown ironically spurred them to legitimize what once was an informal pastime. Sensing suspicion, Karen posted on the neighborhood forum, I deplore any damage to children's sports equipment. That said, the frequent soccer matches caused noise and potential turf damage. Perhaps the saboteur felt forced to act after repeated disruptions. We must discuss better rules. This statement tried to distance herself from a meltdown, but many read between the lines, seeing it as a veiled justification. The meltdown overshadowed her message. She found only scornful replies, people calling her out for insensitivity. Karen, rattled, realized she'd miscalculated the meltdown's effect. The immediate challenge was how to free the net poles from hardened cement. A group of parents attempted to chip it away with hammers and chisels. The meltdown sabotage was thorough. Karen had used enough quickset to form a solid block around the metal bases. After 2 hours of labor, the progress was minimal, risking damage to the frames. The meltdown had effectively locked them in place. Sighing, they decided heavier equipment was needed. A father with construction experience suggested using an angle grinder or saw to cut the poles away and reattach them later. Another approach was to call a professional. Meanwhile, the meltdown had already forced the kids to skip their weekend match. Each child's disappointed face fueled neighbors' resolve to undo this sabotage swiftly. A local handyman, Gus Palmer, offered to assist. He examined the meltdown's cement lumps, concluding the net poles were deeply embedded. He recommended carefully cutting the poles near the base, then welding or reconnecting them to a new bottom assembly. The meltdown ironically required a more advanced fix than just chipping away. Gus asked for modest pay for materials, but no labor cost, wanting to support the kids. They scheduled a repair day. Parents contributed to a small fund. The meltdown ironically drew them closer, determined to salvage the nets. Karen watched from a distance, unsettled that her meltdown wasn't simply forcing them to quit. Instead, the community responded with teamwork. She realized her plan was backfiring. While the net frames awaited professional repair, the children still yearned to play. Some parents improvised with cones or stacked boxes as makeshift goals, though it wasn't the same. Then one mother found a discounted pop-up goal set online. Excited, they purchased it for interim usage, lightweight, foldable frames the kids could place anywhere. The meltdown ironically led them to discover an even more flexible solution than the original nets. The first day the pop-up goals arrived, the kids squealed with delight, unfolding them in seconds. They overcame the meltdown's disruption with an even simpler setup that required no heavy lifting. Karen, noticing the new gear, felt her meltdown's futility. These new pop-ups were even less of a hassle to reposition, precisely what she wanted to prevent. The meltdown ironically improved conditions for the children's soccer pastime. Local watchers caught wind of the meltdown story. Someone cements kids' soccer nets to sabotage their game. The small-town paper wrote a brief piece highlighting how Redwood Meadows families responded with greater resourcefulness, acquiring pop-up goals and raising funds to fix the old frames. The meltdown turned into a feel-good narrative about a community uniting against a petty, harmful act. Karen read the article in dismay. The meltdown's negativity was overshadowed by the sense of communal triumph. She recognized that the more she tried to quell the soccer mania, the more robust it became. Indeed, the meltdown ironically placed Redwood's youth soccer on the local radar, garnering support from beyond their HOA's borders. Gus arrived one Saturday with an angle grinder, metal saw, and welding gear. A crowd gathered to watch him methodically slice off the net poles from the cement lumps. Sparks flew. The meltdown's physical manifestation literally cut away. Kids stood by, cheering each time a piece of metal was freed from the hardened base. Once separated, Gus smoothed edges to reattach new base poles. The meltdown was being reversed, step by step. Karen, observing from afar, felt a sinking sensation. She placed the cement lumps to permanently anchor the nets. Now they were undone, a testament to the meltdown's short-lived success. The meltdown ironically made the neighbors so determined that they advanced new solutions. She scurried home, unsettled by the unstoppable neighborly collaboration. With the net poles severed from the cement, Gus welded new clamp sleeves that let the frames pop in or out easily. This actually improved the old nets, allowing them to collapse for storage, similar to the new pop-up sets. Another meltdown irony: the vandalized nets now boasted more flexible features. The meltdown had upgraded them from basic portable nets to a sophisticated design with modular attachments. When Gus unveiled the refurbished frames, the kids erupted in applause. They tested them on the field, easy to transport and stow if needed. Parents thanked Gus profusely. The meltdown's attempt to root the nets in an awkward spot had ended in a net that was even more portable than before. Karen heard about this final twist, feeling her meltdown had thoroughly backfired. Seeing the meltdown's fiasco and how the kids had become more organized, the board decided to set official soccer hours for the open lot, ensuring no neighbor could claim it was unauthorized. They posted a sign: recreational soccer zone. Children welcome to play from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekends. Please respect quiet hours after 8 p.m. This effectively legitimized the kids' soccer, removing any perceived unregulated aspect. The meltdown ironically forced the board to clarify the lot's use, leaving Karen no official route to object. She was powerless. The meltdown ended with the soccer culture enshrined in official policy. Karen read the new sign with a stormy expression. She recognized how the meltdown had spurred the board to embrace soccer wholeheartedly. Her sabotage had ironically catalyzed a wave of improvements: pop-up nets, refurbished original frames, official hours. She felt a mix of embarrassment, resentment, and regret. Yet she couldn't openly protest without raising suspicion that she opposed these changes because she was behind the meltdown. She tried complaining about potential noise pollution, but the board pointed to the sign. If neighbors complied with the soccer hours, no violation existed. She realized she'd lost her leverage. The meltdown overshadowed her old authority as a committee member. Redwood Meadows had chosen children's joy over her pedantic obsession with quietness. Late at night, Karen wrestled with the meltdown's moral consequences. She recalled sneaking across the lot, hauling cement, how the meltdown felt at once thrilling and terrifying. Now, she only felt shame. She never intended such an outcry, nor wanted kids to cry. She told herself she aimed to restore order, but had inflicted cruelty. The meltdown weighed on her psyche, each new soccer match a reminder of her failure and guilt. Though she kept a stiff exterior, inside her perspective began shifting. She recognized that maybe the kids' games were no real harm. The meltdown ironically taught her how petty control can spiral into destructive extremes. Yet she found no easy path to apologize or come clean, fearing condemnation. She lived with the meltdown's burden day by day. In the meltdown's wake, the newly recognized soccer field thrived. Parents scheduled a small, refurbished nets celebration, inviting kids from surrounding blocks for mini scrimmages. The pop-up goals plus the refurbished frames gave them multiple field configurations. Families brought snacks, turning it into a festive block party with soccer as the main event. Laughter and cheering filled the air. Some older neighbors, once indifferent, strolled by, smiling at the kids' joyous energy. A sense of unity prevailed. Everyone recognized they overcame sabotage with resourcefulness. The meltdown was discussed only as a stepping stone to the wonderful outcome. Karen, if she attended at all, lurked on the sidelines, overshadowed by the unstoppable wave of neighborly solidarity. A local youth soccer league official visited Redwood Meadows upon hearing the meltdown story. He praised how the community overcame negativity, offering resources to form an official neighborhood league if they wished. The parents politely declined formal league structure but appreciated the recognition. The meltdown had ironically drawn regional interest to Redwood's soccer setup. Freed from sabotage fears, the kids expanded their matches with other local neighborhoods. Redwood's field became an informal hub of weekend soccer for all ages. Karen realized each day the meltdown's effect grew more positive for soccer. She saw how her meltdown ironically boosted the children's enjoyment and even gave Redwood a name as kid-friendly. She bristled at the cosmic irony. The meltdown not only cemented soccer's place in Redwood Meadows, but also softened the HOA's approach in general. Board members realized petty crackdowns risk inciting more radical backlash. They focused on fostering open communication. They also introduced a new dispute resolution procedure, ensuring neighbors talk out frustrations or bring them to a formal hearing. The meltdown ironically modernized the HOA's structure, diminishing Karen's brand of unilateral complaint. Karen, seeing the boards pivot away from rigid enforcement, felt dethroned. Her meltdown had taught the board to avoid petty micromanagement. She recognized she'd inadvertently triggered these reforms. Her sense of identity as an HOA guardian was upended, replaced by a community that valued compassion over intimidation. At times, Karen tried to rejoin social circles, offering small talk or mild compliments about the improved net frames. Neighbors remained guarded, suspecting her meltdown role. Polite yet distant, they'd accept her words without volunteering deeper conversation. She felt an undercurrent of mistrust. She realized only an admission or sincere apology might break the ice, yet fear of repercussions held her back. She hovered in social limbo, a meltdown instigator lacking closure. Children continued enjoying daily pickup matches. Some younger kids didn't recall the meltdown, only hearing that someone once cemented the goals. The older ones who witnessed the meltdown recognized how one adult's cruelty ironically improved their situation. They bragged about Redwood's flexible nets, pop-ups for quick games, heavier frames for bigger matches. The meltdown turned into a piece of comedic lore among them, referencing how their great cementing crisis forced them to upgrade. Among themselves, they half-joked that if Karen ever tried again, they'd be ready with portable gear. Karen, overhearing kids talk about the meltdown so casually, felt stabs of guilt. They turned her sabotage into a humorous footnote. She realized that however vile her meltdown was, the children's positivity overshadowed it. They triumphed, leaving her meltdown as a cautionary tale. In her isolation, she wrestled with that humiliating truth. John, father of a 12-year-old boy who frequently joined soccer matches, saw the meltdown ironically benefited the kids. The new multi-option goals were more convenient and secure. The meltdown also revealed Redwood's supportive heart, parents who refused to let sabotage define them. He occasionally wondered who was behind it, suspecting Karen. But lacking proof, he chose to focus on the positivity. The meltdown was behind them, overshadowed by daily pickup matches that brought laughter to the field. He found it ironically comedic that the meltdown's original motive, limiting soccer, had caused an explosion of interest. The meltdown taught him the resilience of community. He quietly pitted the saboteur, who must be living with regret, as the kids soared. Months later, a neighbor named Diane, who had once been Karen's confidant, confided to Linda that Karen had told her she found leftover cement in her garage. She hinted at accidentally using it in the wrong place. Diane refused to elaborate, but Linda read it as a partial slip from Karen about the meltdown. Linda quietly told the board. Without direct admission, it was still hearsay. No formal charges were pursued, but the meltdown's prime suspect was effectively confirmed in neighbors' minds. Karen's guilt was an open secret. She, sensing the tension, retreated further from social life. As Redwood's children grew older, the soccer culture thrived. Some joined high school teams, attributing early training to the meltdown-forged environment. The field near Redwood's edge remained a staple for weekend fun. The meltdown ironically established a tradition, so entrenched that families from other HOAs occasionally visited. Redwood's kids prided themselves on welcoming guests, reinforcing the meltdown's final moral. Sabotage can unify a community more strongly than ever. Karen, glimpsing out of neighborhood families playing joyfully, realized Redwood had ironically become known for open soccer. She recognized the meltdown had done more than fail. It had propelled Redwood to become a local model of kid-friendly recreation. She found no satisfaction, only the quiet sting of her meltdown overshadowed by a bright, unstoppable wave of youth sports. During a random weekend match, a teen half-jokingly exclaimed, "Let's thank whoever tried to anchor these nets in concrete, because we ended up with awesome pop-ups." Laughter erupted. Karen, passing by, overheard the cameo line. Her chest tightened as she realized the meltdown had become a comedic footnote. They turned her vile sabotage into a silly anecdote of someone who hated soccer so much they tried to bury the nets. She hurried on, face hot, the meltdown once again mocking her from all corners. Over time, the meltdown receded from daily conversation, overshadowed by Redwood's blossoming environment of easy living, flexible policies, and a supportive soccer culture. The old meltdown scars had healed into stronger neighborly bonds. The ring of unstoppable positivity overshadowed the meltdown's negativity. Kids practiced advanced footwork with the pop-up goals, occasionally using the heavier frames for bigger weekend tournaments. Redwood's open lot was busier than ever, testifying to the meltdown's ironically beneficial aftermath. Karen found a measure of uneasy acceptance. She no longer tried to sabotage soccer. She realized the meltdown taught her the community would stand against destructive impulses. She had no appetite for further meltdown attempts. She retreated to living quietly in Redwood, overshadowed by the meltdown's unstoppable legacy, a thriving, child-friendly environment that overcame sabotage with resourcefulness and unity.